Well, hello everybody, and we still have some people jumping on. So I think this is working tonight. Good to see you all for our TTR Presents. We have actually a couple of them this month. This is exciting. And tonight we're going to hear from Lisa Bowers with Office Allies, all about why rebrand is the title, right? Why rebrand? That's a mouthful. And we're happy that Lisa just did this. So she's going to tell us all about it, aren't you, Lisa? Come on, take it away.
Hello, everybody. I need one moment because I have somebody who just messaged me and asked how to get here. So, um, so give me a second and let me see if I can really quickly send her the link. So, um,
So let me go to
actually,
the,
here, I can do it on my computer. I don't know why I'm doing it on my phone. Because on my phone it's going to take twice as long. So, hello, everybody who came in just the last few minutes. Welcome. Here we go.
I'm waving to everybody. If you can see me,
There we go.
yeah,
All
there
right,
you
she
go.
has the
Thank you.
link now.
All
So,
right,
sorry
good.
about that. Let me start sharing. And can you guys see the slides?
There we go. Yes, yes,
All right.
I can.
All right. So social media, we all put it out as why rebrand, which is fine. I realized as I was making these slides that a better title would probably be why would an established business rebrand. So I just kind of renamed it on the fly today. So, but if you know me very well, you know I do a lot of things on the fly. So uh, that just kind of goes along with me. So if you have not met me before, I'm Lisa Bowers. I'm the owner of Office Allies LLC. We are a full service admin support, executive level marketing, bookkeeping, and admin business. And you'll learn a lot more about that as we go along. So let's get started. So I don't know where to click. Here we go. Nope, not there. There we go. Um, so I had not had this slide in it until I was going through and realized I'm talking all this thing about branding. And somebody asked me, so what exactly is branding? So branding is the combination of your message, your logo or visual, your representation or reputation, and the experiences that tells the market who you are as a business, who you serve, and why you might be a good choice for them. Your brand is what people believe about your business when you're not in the room. I thought that was kind of an interesting statement that I heard. So it's not just your logo, it's not just your website or your colors, but it's the true perspective of your business. I'm sorry. Okay, here, can you? I don't. Um, it's more about your perception or how other people perceive your business that drives how you can price, how you can trust, and how you can grow. Um, so that's kind of what branding is. And we're going to talk about branding board later in the slide. And I was also asked what a branding board was. So this is kind of an example of mine. It gives you the colors of your logos. It gives you some taglines. It usually gives you what your fonts are and stuff. So just if you don't know what a branding board is, when we get to that topic, at least you've seen one, and we'll talk more about it. Um, so here's some things that I've heard in the today's the 15th, so the last 15 or last 10 days. Rebranding is a failure. It's a sign that your, business was dying and you're doing something different. So I'm here to say it's not that. Rebranding is not about failure. It's actually a sign of growth in most cases. Rebranding is about realignment or getting your brand to align with your business. That is the business of today. It's not reinventing the company. Um, your brand should evolve as your business evolves. Sometimes it's moving from a side hustle to being a real business. Sometimes it's moving from a hobby, to a real business. And most successful businesses have rebranded at least once. And we're going to talk about some that you will have heard of. So now audience check-in time. Um, think about your own business. Are you where you started now? Is the point that you're at today in your business where you started it? And feel free to chime in and talk to me. Did you plan to be where you are now when you started? Or does your services look different than they used to? Come on, somebody talk to me. You guys are not shy. I know every single person on the screen.
Well, mine just kind of fell into not, I don't want to say kind of fell into place. No, I'm not where I started. So I think but I had to go through an awful lot of trial and error to realize what worked and what didn't, what could possibly, everything from who wants to be part of it to how does it work, basically.
Okay. I just saw Olga said, not really. Things happened as I was moving forward. I think that's probably pretty common statement as well. Um, so if you say yes to any of these questions, then you're at the right place tonight. This conversation, is going to fit for you.
I think
And hopefully
Melissa's,
you'll actually have a conversation with me.
sorry, I think Melissa was chiming in there.
Oh,
Were you,
sorry.
Melissa?
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I guess it has changed in service wise. As some of you know, now I bring my jewelry to meetings. But not only that, when I started out, quite honestly, I didn't expect to turn it into an LLC, but now it is.
Mhm.
So, yeah, it's not what it is now is not how it started. That's what I'm trying to
So,
say.
Melissa, I've never asked this of you before. Did you start making jewelry just as a hobby, or did you start out make that this is going to be my business?
It was definitely from a hobby.
Yeah.
And people saying I should, sell it more. I would just offer it to friends and family.
Okay.
Um, but like turn it into a business. And I wasn't ready until 2020, and I just knew, okay, you know, I'll
Yeah.
do it. And just did it as a leap of faith. Um, I opened it actually after the whole craziness in March of that year. And so yeah, it was
And I love hearing that. I think that's a lot of people's story is very similar to that. It started as a hobby and then they made it, especially when you're doing a creative, you know, I know somebody who, does well, one of my employees, she has a side hustle that she makes these beautiful hand painted banners for parties. So if you want the big banner behind the pictures that say, Sally's second birthday, she paints those and she does a beautiful job, but she did it. She did the first one for her own kid's birthday and now she does it as a business. So anyway. So yeah.
yeah,
All right. So a lot of times when we start talking about rebranding, we start looking at the growth, or we start more often what I found people feel a disconnect or they feel an alignment change. And that's usually caused by growth. So the growth can cause alignment or misalignment. And it's because our business have evolved. our society has evolved. You as a business owner has changed. The customers that you serve change, and even how you deliver the value has changed. But a lot of times your brand has stayed the same, and that's where that misalignment comes in and that pressure. So we're going to talk a little bit about Office Allies and how kind of how it came about. A lot of you have heard my story before. Office Allies was started on whim. I had a friend who had a challenge, in her case, getting invoices out on time so she could get paid, and I had time to help her. It grew into business almost accidentally. Somebody looked at me and said, "You should come to my networking meeting and promote your business." And my answer to them literally was, "What business? I don't have a business." And they convinced me I had a business, and they convinced me to network. And Jennifer probably kicks them now because that's probably where she met me. So, but at that time, I was saying yes to a lot of things I didn't like to do. Um, but I was growing a business and I was trying to pay the bills. So I said yes to doing a lot of crappy jobs, to lack of a better way to put it. Um, I quickly hit my capacity of what I could get done in a day and still have some sense of a sleep pattern in life. So I tried to bring in contractors or associates with no solid plan. So the first few people I tried to hire, um, they were kind of disasters because I wasn't ready to delegate to them. I didn't know what to hand off. I didn't have a plan on how to do that. And it was kind of a chaotic mess. Um, I was figuring out things, as my dad would say, by the seat of my pants, which is what a lot of business owners do. And then there's the fact that I did have a logo that I loved and I had a brand, but the brand and the logo was very personal to me. And so we're going to talk about some of that personal thing. And I was hoping Leah would be on here because Leah designed my logo. And Leah has known me for 30 years. She knew my background. She knew that I have a background in IT. I was a computer programmer. She knew I loved purple. So when she created my logo, the mouse for the O was a tribute to me being in IT for 20 years at the time. The purple, of course, I love purple. So of course my logo was going to be purple. The other thing that a lot of people didn't ever notice is the cord on the mouse. The cord is actually there for a reason. Not just because, we needed a cord on the mouse, but it actually forms an L. If you actually look at it, it's kind of a cursive L. And she did that because it was Lisa's baby. It was Lisa's business. All those little gems. Even the thing is, I knew that I wanted a business that I could grow and I could scale. And I wanted a business because I had a daughter at the time when I started the business who was 16. Um, and she didn't know what she wanted to do. She thought she wanted to go into business in some area, but she didn't know exactly what. So I knew I didn't want a business under my name. I didn't want Lisa Bowers virtual assistant or whatever. So I came up with Office Allies, and even the name was personal to me. And that's because I have a very patriotic family growing up. I had a lot of military grandfathers and uncles and such. And I have a veteran that is pretty special to me. But that military history, I thought back to the Allies and I thought it worked with, how I wanted to partner with my clients. So even my name was all personal to me. It was my baby. It really was. My youngest at the time was 12. He didn't want to be babied anymore. So I needed a new baby and it became my company, I guess. So a lot of people also fall into accidental entrepreneurs. Um, most businesses start without a plan for their branding. Sometimes they never have a brand. Um, a lot of times they'll start with side hustle or let's see if this idea works. Um, you take on your first customer that who says yes. Branding decisions are made cheap and fast and reactive. I have clients who, when they come to me originally, and actually I had one that did it the whole time I was working with them, their logo that they used on their business cards and everything was literally clip art that you could find under Microsoft Word, clip art. Um, I've seen plumbers that use a um, pipe wrench as their logo. I've seen sewer companies that use a toilet, and it's nothing other than clip art. For them, the goal wasn't a brand, it was survival. It was trying to get, they wasn't thinking about positioning their brand. They were just thinking about having something on a business card. I have a client. I actually have several clients that have been in business over 5 years and they don't have a branding board. And that's why I kind of threw one up on the front page is what one looks like. I asked a owner this was 6 months ago. He was asking me to do some changes and I said, hey, do you have your branding board that you could send me because I'm not sure how to, what font or color this is. Because he asked me to recreate a flyer that they had with their brand on it. And I asked him for a branding board. And he goes, what is that? And I said, the board that they probably made when they made your logo, told you what font they used, what colors, gave you all the numbers of that. He goes, yeah, I don't think we got one of those. And he'd been in business, I don't know, probably 10, 20 years at this point. Never even knew what a branding board was. So, um,
Hmm.
So as I grew, and if any, actually, wait, does anybody have questions? Because I need a drink, and so you guys can talk. Anybody have any questions so far?
I don't know, but you said Leah's name and she appeared.
I noticed that.
How does that work?
I am here.
She mentioned your name. Did you hear her?
I did. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'm trying to see if I can put my camera on. I
Uh,
was sitting downstairs, so it's not exactly the best background.
It's all good.
It's all
Many
good.
of them have
Yeah, it's
heard
not
your
going,
name.
so
Yeah.
I bet you a number of
yeah.
them have heard your name but don't know who you are. So it's
Wait,
nice that you're on. Go ahead.
yeah.
Yeah, your camera's all black, so I don't know
I
what's
know,
going
and
on there.
it's on, but it's I'm not
Little
sure.
switchy thing on the top, is it turned?
And yeah,
I've done
I
that
don't have a
before.
switchy thing at the top, but
Okay. But all right, I'm going to go on then,
no.
and hopefully we'll see Leah's face at some point. Um, so as I grew, my business grew in different ways. The first thing I realized, I was getting more experienced and less income. And I put a big what there because a lot of people were like, how could that happen? As I found, because I was trading time for money and doing things on an hourly basis, as I got better and more efficient at doing it, the hours went down, and so I was actually making less money because I was doing it better. Um, I was developing my skills and realizing that I needed to narrow my focus because I didn't want to say yes to everything. I wanted to have, you know, more develop the skills and the jobs that I enjoy doing instead of doing work that I didn't really want to do. For one was incoming phone calls. We found out real fast we don't like taking incoming phone calls. We also don't make collection notices because we're not good at it. when you're crying on the phone with the person who you're trying to collect a bill from, you're not doing a collection the right way. Or so my client told me. Um, I needed clearer boundaries. I had to set the boundaries for myself and for my business. So as I got my expertise got stronger, my confidence changed. And when I say my confidence changed, that doesn't always mean my confidence grew. For the ones who've been around, Leah's probably been the only one around here from the beginning of the business, but Leah can tell you, but please don't, because don't let out my secrets. My confidence has gone, it has peaked. I got this, we're going, doing. And then maybe the month later, maybe 20 minutes later, I'm like, what the heck am I thinking that I can't do this? Um, I had days where I was, hey, this thing is working, this business, I got money in the bank for once. And then there was other days when I was ready to just go to Walmart and greet people at the door because I thought that sounded like a better job than what I was doing. Um, the big one, and some people have heard the story, I made some really um, costly mistakes in hiring a contractor that cost me a lot of money because she wasn't an ethical person. Um, so I got to better understand my values with the business. But during all of this, my brand still reflected the starter me. It was the starter version of me. Um, Not that it was a bad brand, not that it was a bad logo or a bad name, because I actually kept the name when I rebrand. It just wasn't, it was who I was the day I started. It wasn't who I am today. So, but even if my business didn't change, the world has changed. I started my business in 2014. But some of the stuff that we're going to talk about on this page actually happened before that, but most of it is within actually the last 7 years probably. But I started remote working back in 1998, which was completely unheard of. I had a 9-month-old baby and I didn't want to go back to work full time. So I told them, here's the situation. I'll dial in from work. And they let me. I'm still kind of shocked that they said yes to that. But now remote work is the normal. Now more people do remote than actually go to an office, I think. Technology has accelerated our lives. We fast we fast forward through commercials. AI gives us instant answers, and we don't even have to type them. All we have to do is say, Siri's blah, 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 and Siri gives us the answer. Or the other one is, hey, blank, which mine will start talking, so I'm not going to finish that sentence. And you ask a question, and it gives you an answer without even typing anything. Um, our buyers' behavior has switched. We have food delivered, we have groceries delivered, we have prescriptions delivered. If you can order it, it can be delivered, I think these days. We I'll be honest, I probably haven't been to a grocery store more than a few times since COVID hit. Honestly. Um, I have it delivered when I can. Or now Stephen goes to the grocery store. So um, I Googled this today. They said that the average adult has a attention span of 15 to 20 minutes. It used to be 50 minutes. Now they're saying it's 15 to 20. And for those that are curious, they also said that our attention spans peak around the early 40s. So if you're in your early 40s, you're at the peak of your attention span. The ones that are us who are older than that, we're at 15 to 20 minutes apparently, and which means I've already lost you guys. The world is aging, but the entrepreneurs are getting younger. I have clients and referral partners that I work with I have one that is 77 years old and she's still working her business full time. 10 years ago, they would have retired. They wouldn't be working at 77 years of age. I also have a entrepreneur friend of a child or child of a friend, I guess it would be the best way to describe him. He graduated high school and has a 4-year-old business. Not a 4-year-old child, a 4-year-old business. He started a business at 14 doing landscaping. When he graduated high school, he had a business that had been in business for 4 years and had a landscaping business that was paying him more than most starting position, most starting jobs. Um, that was unheard of 10 years ago. College or high school kids were not starting jobs or starting businesses. Those are ways that our world and our society has changed or evolved. So here's Jennifer, this answers your question. The other day you asked me what brought this on, what triggered this rebrand. So here it is. Often the starter brand doesn't support scaling the business. I heard a lot of, oh, here, let me refer you to my VA, Lisa. I never heard, oh, let's refer you to Office Allies. Have you talked to Office Allies? It was always, Lisa. I had built a staff and, with my contractors that are now employees, but I was hearing constantly, you're going to handle this right, because they had a lack of confidence in my staff. They wanted me, and they wanted me because they were used to having me. Um, I was attracting misaligned clients in the sense that, they wasn't looking for a partnership. They were looking for somebody just to check off the task. And I was building Office Allies to be a partnership, to go alongside with the business. And the biggest one for me, I think, is I kept feeling like I had to repeatedly explain my values and what made me unique and the unique advantages within my business. And I had to justify my pricing and my business model. And the biggest one of this happened literally when we were in the truck going to an event this past probably August, September, and I had just got off a phone with the discovery call, and I spent the entire time on that call trying to justify why we charge the rates we do, explain why I was asking the questions I were asking because they didn't seem to understand. I was asking them about their goals and where they wanted to see their business in, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. They were like, why do you need to know that? I just want to know if you can, check my email. And it just really hit a chord with me when I got off that call and then got into the vehicle. And we were driving to a networking event, in fact, because I remember it very clearly. And I said, something's got to change. Something in the message, something in the logo, something I didn't know, something had to change. So my original brand helped me get started, but a new brand I believe is going to help us scale. So here's the main thing, and this is the personal one. This is the one for me. When you hear VA, what is your first thought? And don't read the screen. Tell me what your first thought is. Melissa, you came off mute.
Yeah, go ahead.
Veterans Administration.
Yep. Okay.
Oh, good for you. I was just thinking somewhere in a foreign country. That's all I'm thinking.
Exactly. Okay, that's the second one. Anybody else? Anybody recognize this little guy right here? Clippy? His name's Clippy
Oh,
if you
Clippy.
don't remember him. Clippy was the original virtual assistant. That was his title. He was Clippy the virtual assistant. Um, and he was all about automation and helping you with Microsoft. And yes, I'm showing my age because that was back in, I don't even remember what year. And I didn't look up the right year, but I did look up to make sure his name was Clippy because I was like, I think it's Clippy. So, when people hear VA, they think either Veterans Administration or Veteran Affairs. Um, they think offshore VAs, virtual assistants who are offshore or foreign, or they think automation and, AI and being able to load all your task list into AI and it gives you your perfect calendar for the day. Um, and all of those things are great, but none of those define what Office Allies does. Not exactly, or not well. So it became clear that VA was not the right fit for me. So now we've talked all these reasons that we have rebranded. And I said at the beginning, I said a lot of companies go through rebranding. So here's some examples. Sometimes you rebrand because of customer behavior. Um, how many of you know about Dunkin' Donuts? Did you realize that Dunkin' Donuts rebranded?
Mhm.
Okay. So my kids do not know that Dunkin' Donuts were ever Dunkin' Donuts. They only know it as Dunkin's.
That's
I thought
interesting.
when they first said that, I thought it was they were leaving the donuts off. But no, I realized they never knew it as Dunkin' Donuts. They only knew it as the name Dunkin'. Um, and I thought it was interesting, and this was Chat GPT giving me the answers, by the way. Um, they rebranded and took the donuts off because they realized that the majority of their sales were coming from beverages, not from donuts.
Oh,
So, um, so since their customers were already looking at them as a coffee shop, they did away with the donut in the name. Um, Next one, business people will know more than others, but MailChimp. MailChimp started out as a simple email tool to send out emails. Now they do automation, they do CRMs, they do landing pages. They'll give you statistics on how many times your email was opened and read and clicked through and all that stuff that was not part of the original software that they offered. So they repositioned and they actually did their rebrand as what a lot of people call like quiet rebrand. They didn't really tell anybody. They just changed the logo and changed the font on the name and didn't really announce it. So, but when your services expand, sometimes your brand has to expand too. And then the last one, Weight Watchers, it went from a diet company to a wellness company. And Weight Watchers is one I remember so clearly. They were big and bold and loud about their rebrand. If you watch TV at all, every commercial about Weight Watchers at the time would tell you we aren't Weight Watchers anymore. We're more than diet. We're a health company. We're a wellness company. And they were very loud about their rebrand. And they rebrand because they didn't want to be seen as the diet company. They wanted to be more about the lifestyle, the wellness, the mindset. Um, and so they used the WW and their tagline was wellness that works. And that's what they used the W and W with.
mm.
So, um, so curious because I need another drink of water and you guys need to talk for a bit. How many of you guys recognized any of those or knew about any of those besides Leah? Leah probably did because she does marketing. But
I did.
anybody else, did you guys realize that those, or would you have thought of them?
The Duncan probably for sure. I've lived long enough to have seen it though. But but I didn't know that that was because they did more business in their
Yeah.
beverages. That's interesting. The Weight
What
Watchers.
about what Cracker Barrel did?
Yeah.
They took
You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
I thought about including Cracker Barrel after the fact, and then I didn't, only because it was so controversial, and I was like, I didn't know if I wanted to get into that. But yeah, Cracker Barrel, I don't know if have they gone? I heard various stories, and I haven't driven by a Cracker Barrel that I paid attention. Are they still? Did they stick with their new brand, or did they go back to Uncle whatever his name was?
I think they went back to the Uncle Herschel
Yeah, that's what I
the way
thought.
they were planning on it, and I haven't. We did not see any rebranding around here at all. But yeah, there was a big outcry, you know,
Yeah. I do
with
remember
that
seeing
brand.
I remember seeing the new logo on a billboard as we were driving somewhere and I remember looking at it and like, and no, that's not that's not what Cracker Barrel is supposed to look like. But I don't
Yeah.
remember seeing any of the actual Cracker Barrel restaurants. I don't remember if I've ever seen any of them be rebranded, but yeah, so. But this one, the lesson I didn't do, the key lesson on this one was the language matters. The words you use can shape who feels invited. So,
Mm.
and all this stuff is stuff that Leah can probably talk about more than I can being in marketing, but it's my turn. All right. So here are some things that I've heard from clients and from referral partners on different things and felt myself. My brand feels dated. Um, my perception, your perception affects your trust level. If your website looks outdated and needs updated, it probably is. Your messaging doesn't always reflect our true values or our current values. The language feels out of touch. That kind of goes along with Weight Watchers. And this is some example. When I started Office Allies, the ones in the taglines in purple was the taglines I used. Taking care of tasks to keep you from being productive. Yeah, it said what we did, but it also made us task oriented and not project oriented. So we were checking off boxes. Eliminating administrative chaos. Yeah, that's what we were trying to do, but again, it didn't really build that partnership and that real true example of where we wanted to help businesses grow. So new ones that we're using, your business, your expertise, or I'm sorry, your business, our expertise, one powerful partnership, allies in execution, partners in growth, and support that frees you to focus. I think those feel for me, I mean, you guys can disagree, but it doesn't matter. It's my company. But I feel like those are a better representation of where we're going and what we're doing. So, and that came off kind of smarky. I probably shouldn't have said that, but yeah. Um, Also, there's times when, and this happened with me, your competition feels bigger and better, but then are they? And for me, I was comparing Office Allies. I was caught into comparing us. We were getting prepared, or we were getting compared to offshore VAs, and mainly with cost. They wanted us to match their cost on what they on their pricing for offshore VAs, but then they wanted service like some of the executive level admin, they wanted that level of service, but because they were thinking VAs, they wanted offshore pricing. So I was it I felt like I was caught in a place where if I continued to use the term VA, I was constantly going to be fighting my pricing, if that makes sense. And then again, perspectives or prospects were surprised by your pricing. So when I explained that we're all US based, we're all college educated, we are all understand the business culture and well versed in language, they were like, yeah, that's great, but can you work at $5 an hour? And so that was a constant struggle. I just have to see where my mouse is. There we go. So changes or services change often before brands do. Most businesses evolve slowly or quietly. I'm sorry, I meant quietly. A lot of times things will happen almost overnight that the business owner doesn't even recognize. The business owner will start moving from operator or doer to more of a true role of being the business owner, being the architect, being the visionary of the company. The client target or the niche becomes clearer. So who your audience is, who do you want to work with? You start caring more about the alignment with your client than the number of them. You want to have, I got to the point where I recognized that I didn't necessarily need, 30 clients if I could have 20 clients that I really felt and enjoyed working with. So it was all about the alignment, quality over quantity. Your services become more focused on exceptional performances of a few rather than offering many. So I would rather offer less services and know that we can do a really good job at them than to offer that we can do everything and do it as a so-so. We do an all right job at that. Who wants to buy or hire a company that, yeah, we do all right at that. No, we do great at that. You build your team and hopefully you build it with a plan to start with from the beginning, unlike I did, which we don't have HR on here, so they can't yell at me. Your price structure starts to reflect that gained experience. And those are all ways that things change as your branding, doesn't always change. So the cost of not evolving. Outdated brand can cause confusion. Prospects hesitate to reach out. The brand can send their own message. Sometimes the pricing feels too high for the buyers. That's what I was struggling with in a lot of times. You feel like you have to justify what you do and why you charge to do it. You blend in instead of standing out. My marketing friend would tell you, you never want to blend in. Your business looks smaller than it is. And that's where I come back to, you need to talk to my VA, Lisa, rather than you need to talk to Office Allies. And I love this quote I saw online. If your brand looks like it belongs in another era, your client assumes your business does too. So I don't know why I have to be on that screen to click. So rebranding, we've talked about a lot, but it is not just a new logo. It's not just a new website. It's not just a new tagline. It's not starting over. It's not an ego project. And it's definitely not because you're bored, because it's a lot of work. So if you're doing it just because you're bored, you got more time on your hands than you know. So what is it? It is a realignment. It's clarification of who you serve. It's communication or communicating your real value. It's positioning you for your next level or your next chapter. it's supporting your current business, not your past, and it allows for expansion. But the number one thing and the number one thing that I have experienced is it's a mindset shift. This whole process of rebranding Office Allies, it's about elevating the business. It's about climbing the ladder to the next phase. And I don't know how to explain it really. I wish I did. But there's just something about saying, executive level administrative service just brings up a whole different feel when you hear it and when you say it. We don't use, I had this conversation with the client today, a discovery call client, and I said, we offer remote administrative assistant. And she goes, well, how is that different than a VA? And I said, well, and I went back to, well, when you hear VA, you think offshore. And so we choose to use the word remote. And because we work remotely, but we can we work at a higher level or a higher quality, I guess is a better word. But once you start thinking and you start using a elevated mindset, everything about the business will change, or at least it has been in my experience with this past 6 months. And I wish I knew the right words to explain that, but I don't have the words. So I guess I'm just tongue-tied there. So all right, I'm about done. So we've got just a couple more slides. Rebranding is also an act of leadership. And this is something I really didn't think of it this way until I sat down and started making this slide presentation. It's not a cosmetic change. It's about stewardship. I am stewarding my business, not as a hobby, but as a true business. My brand sets expectations before I ever speak. And that first impression, it can never be redone. Strong brands can create clarity for everybody involved. And I've seen this even in the last 15 days with my employees, with my vendors that I work with my clients. They see that clarity, and that with the new marketing and the new messaging and just the words that we're using in our emails with our client, we're bringing a new clarity to everybody just because of having that stronger bond or that stronger brand. So my mouse keeps getting lost. So how do you know it's time to rebrand? So ask yourself these questions. Does my brand reflect my current expertise? Does it attract the right clients? Does it support my pricing? Do I feel confident sending people to my website? If not, then maybe your alignment is off and maybe it's time. And I do have something that I've created, and it will be on my website for you to download as of tomorrow. But it's a brand alignment assessment or a self-audit worksheet that basically asks you some questions to go through and helps you to figure out if it is time to rebrand. And it's something that I found and then kind of moderated or modified to fit more the clients that I work with and stuff. And so where have your business outgrown its brand? In the skills, in the service, in the audience, in the pricing, in the leadership? Your brand should match the business you're running today. The strongest brands aren't built once, they're redefined as the business evolves. So thank you for giving up your time. Oh, wow, it's really 8 o'clock. I didn't realize I was going to talk that late. Uh, Thank you for giving up your evening. Thank you for showing up. And if you have any questions, please ask. And I'm sorry, I meant to have more time for questions. I didn't realize I talked that long.
Well,
So
Lisa, thank you. Can I just really quickly say, so if somebody does have a question, will you be providing, can you provide me the link when I send it out after the recording, guys? I'll send you the link as well, and that'll give you an opportunity to go look at Office Allies website if you have it, but also you would I'm glad you offered that, because I'm like, I'm sure, does Leah want you? I mean, is that something that you, Lisa and Leah, you can help somebody rebrand, right? Exactly. So,
Absolutely.
okay.
Absolutely.
And
And I like that Lisa brought in that last part about the leadership part of it, because people do tend to think of a new brand as new colors, new logo, that type of thing, but it really is so much more than that. And just like explaining why you're doing that and having your clients, I mean, her staff that's with her, having them know that it's important not to say, VA and things like that. I mean, you have to educate, your staff, your vendors, your clients, to take that further and to make it efficient and make it worth its while.
so,
on here twice.
and I'll just say really quickly, and we don't really have a time limit, guys. I mean, you can ask questions, but it has been, I mean, it's very good, Lisa, lots of good idea, lots of good information. And I'm curious that, what questions people do have. There was something, that was what I was going to say, Lisa and Leah. When we started the website isn't exactly what Leah and Lisa created, but the branding and everything is. So I don't want to misspeak. It's been a few years since the original website, but you all know that Ryan did none of the branding. That was all Lisa and Leah. So Leah does the marketing and pretty pictures, and I don't know. That doesn't sound right. You know what I mean? Yeah. And
Actually,
And
Jennifer,
graphic design.
yeah. Jennifer, can I put you on the spot for a second?
No, I don't like it.
You at Sarah Care last week.
Yep.
Last week? Was it a week ago now? Yeah, it was last week. You made a comment, and at the time when you made it, I was like, wow, that because I had worked on the presentation that same day. You made the comment that you said TTR network. It used to stand for to the rescue, but now nobody really understands to the rescue. So it's just TTR network. And I had been working on the materials for for this presentation. And when you said that, I'm like, I could do the whole presentation on that statement right there.
Right. It was actually more for those who were there. I was more meaning that I thought "to the rescue" sounded stupid even when we named it that. So I always just said TTR. But then I started thinking totally terrific relationships, and then I kind of thought, that could get kind of in the weeds too. So, but I understood because I did. Because I think when I started it, I know Olga's got a question, so I don't want to talk over. But when I started thinking, and now everybody says TTR, just rolls off their tongue. It's kind of cool, but it was more the kind of to the rescue networking. Come on, kind of. I got that opinion, but I know Olga had a question there for you, Lisa. Yeah. So I don't know what it is. Olga, you want to share? I see it, but I'm not sure. There it is.
Yeah, yeah, I just wanted to see if you could elaborate a little bit about the rebrand board that you mentioned earlier.
So let's see if I can. I closed my slides. I probably shouldn't have. That was stupid of me. Um, let's do it this way. I'll just bring it up this way. Leah actually, I can't take credit for this fully because Leah taught me about branding boards, but once she taught me about them, I'm like, I'm I'm a disciple. And are you seeing the branding board? Because I'm not seeing the branding board. There we go.
Mm,
Yep.
there you go.
Okay. So a branding board, and Leah, feel free to jump in if I say something wrong. But a
Nope.
branding board is more, I think of it as kind of the Bible of your brand. It's your logo, the colors, the fonts, the taglines. And Leah does her branding boards a lot different than mine. Mine just gives you the facts because I'm usually the implementer. But Leah's branding boards will even have like the vibe. Like she'll have pictures that will go with if you're building your business and you want a, tiki beach feel, then she'll have pictures of that so that it brings the vibe in. I tend to just have the elements that I need so that I know where to get when I know I need this color of orange where it is. And this is the actual color on the color wheel that I need for it. Leah, jump in, please.
Yeah, well, I think at the very basic, it's what you've got there, and that's important to have because I've twice this week already, I've had clients that have come with me that have come and they said they gave me their logo and they needed it for a sign design and we wanted to keep it. One was for a website, one was for another some more signage and all. And I said, "Do you know what those logos are in your font?" And they're like, no." And or I said, "Do you know what the colors are?" No. So, I mean, I'm able to pretty much narrow those things down. The colors I can usually get, the fonts I can get pretty darn close if I can't get the exact one. But it's those things that if you want to carry on your look, and have that consistent feel to your business, those are some of the basic things that you need to know is your colors and what your fonts are that you go with. Because if you don't, your website can turn into, you add this page and then you add that page and then, this has got you pull in some pictures that have different fonts and it looks very confusing and people get caught up more in what how different everything looks rather than what your actual message is. And then, like she said, the messaging on the with the vibe. I worked with a hospital chain, and they work with a lot of other vendors, and so it was important that we had a what our look is, or with your logo, how much how much space you need to have around it, you know. Um, can you put your logo on a colored background? If you put Lisa's logo and you put it on a black background, the way it is, it's not going to show up. So usually what I will do with my clients is I'll give them some other options for it as well. I'll do a reversed out version for them and things like that. So it, you need to tell people because people will put it on backgrounds that are, you know,
Horrible.
too busy or and the whole point of having your logo on there is so that people can see who you are and recognize you. And if they can't see your logo, they're not going to know. It just kind of ruins everything. And if you've got multiple people, especially in bigger organizations, if you have multiple people who are working for you, they're all going to have their own take on how to market you. So that's why it's really important to have, and it also helps you remember too,
And
to keep that consistency.
yeah,
And it makes things faster. It really does make things faster.
I will say the biggest thing I would say is your consistency to making sure it's consistent. Even your social media, even your social
Yeah.
media, you want that consistency. Um, and the person I was talking to earlier, when they were, what is a branding board? What do you I realized that they were talking, they looked at it as, oh, you mean our templates, because their company, instead of calling it, this is our branding, they said, these are your templates you're going to use for all your slides, all your, business cards or whatever. So it's that same thing. So you can think of it as your templates if um, but yeah, it's the consistency. And I know when Office Allies get called in a lot to do, we need to add this page to our website, or we need to change this page and change these pictures or add this content. And if I don't have a um, branding board, then what I end up having to do is go into other pages and do like Leah was talking. And sometimes I've even had to send it to Leah and say, I can't figure out what font this is or what color this is. And she's got better tools than I do. And I have to spend my time figuring out what fonts they use so that I could add. So what would have taken, what could have been a 1 hour adding this page becomes a, 2 hour project because I can't match their fonts easily. So
Hmm.
it takes some time up front to make it, but it's so worth it. So, but
Okay.
anything else? And thank you, Olga, for asking, because somebody has to talk besides
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, I was curious about that because I do know we have like the colors, we have the tagline, but it's not nicely laid out like the picture that you showed. So now I got inspired of, like how to put everything together and
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah.
keep a
Yeah.
file
And it makes it
with
easy. You can
all
pass it
that
off
together.
very easily in one
Yes,
file. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
And
Mhm.
something
So
that
it was
Leah
good.
didn't mention, but I've seen this come up too. Um, also, and Leah, you did this for one of our clients, and I can't think of who you did. Actually, you may have did it for Jennifer. Was it Jennifer that we made a this is how you are allowed to use our logo, like
I
guideline.
think we
We
did
did.
do that. Yeah, it's been a while,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think we did.
And we said,
Hmm.
this is you can shrink it, you can enlarge it, but you had to keep these ratios and stuff because with her, and yes, it was TTR, I know for a fact, because they were all the logos for all the different groups, because at the time we had like 17 groups, I think.
We did have a lot. Yeah.
And all the leaders wanted their logo and wanted to do whatever they wanted with it. And we'd have some logos that they would shrink it to the point they would shrink it like horizontally but not vertically, and then it would look really funny. Or the lifesaver, or
Right.
not life,
Yeah. The life
yeah, the
jacket,
the
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 buoy or thing.
the
Yeah.
the rescue saver, whatever it's called, lifesaver, would look like it would look more like an oval than a circle because they would sketch it, funny. And so we ended up saying, here's the rules. This is how you can use the logo. And that's something that, and I got very particular, and I even have made a couple people upset because even with um, I've been very protective of my logo. And so I've had people that grabbed my logo a off of my website or something, and then they stuck it on, their thing because Office Allies sponsored something, and they didn't use my logo in a way that I thought
Yeah.
met, like a nice way. And I asked them, I'm like, take it down. I said, I will give you, if you want to use my logo, you will ask me for it, and I will give you the high res version you can use. I don't, and I've even, luckily I know how to do it. I've locked my website so you can't click on and actually I need to make sure I've done that on the new one. I did that on the old one. You can't copy my logo off my website, you know, because of that, because I didn't like people grabbing it and doing weird stuff with it. So, And that's
It
all part.
represents your professionalism and
Yeah, there you go. That's a better word for it. I like weird stuff though.
That's
So,
pretty cool though. But that's probably some really good information for future TTR presents. All these things about, because I don't even know if many of these ladies, I don't know if they would know, but do you even think about that somebody might say you can only use, because it's easy. It's
oh,
easy.
big companies like Coca-Cola and Pepsi, they have books about how you can use their logo. Mine or the one we did for TTR was like a one pager, you know, but
Hey, it's still
but it
special.
mattered.
It's special, people. It's
Yeah.
special. Treat it like, but it is amazing when I think about it. It's like, wow, we did some good. You guys did some good things. I'm glad we did it that way. So thank you very much. Anybody? I don't mean to. I'm not under any time frame really, but does anybody else have any questions or anything? I am going to. I think it's been recording. Let me just say Mary laughed, I think, at one point. So
Well, it says I'm here twice, and so I'm kind of interested about that.
kind
But
of creeped
anyway.
out. There's only so much we can take. No, it's actually it was just thank you, Lisa, for doing that because it's very interesting. And a lot of our business people maybe have been in business a few years, not all of them, but some of them, and some of them have gone through a rebranding. And Lisa just did that. We were talking about it at the end of the year. What would be a good thing for her to do? And we come back and it's why rebrand? Well, that's perfect because she just went through it. So I do thank you. And I think there are so many things. You guys reach out to Lisa. Leah is down. Where are you?
Georgetown, Indiana, near Louisville.
New
Yeah.
Lure. Here. Well, actually, we got very lucky when.
We lost your soft.
I can't hear you.
Oh, I just moved backwards. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, I'm taking advantage of being lazy in my chair. No, we got very fortunate it's been a few years ago now, right? Leah came this direction
has
for
been,
a couple days and went to
Yeah.
some of our meetings. And I don't know if that was actually prior to the pandemic or was it on the tail end or I can't remember.
It was before, I think.
I think it was before.
If
Yeah.
you think about
But
it
I think
that way,
people were
that's
still
Yeah.
getting together.
good
Yeah.
6 years ago, right, guys? So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so all of the stuff you pretty much see on our website was created by these two ladies together. Lisa doesn't necessarily do the graphic stuff, right? Or the colors and all that. But anyway, just give
I enforce them. Leah creates it and I enforce it.
Okay, there we go. There we go. So thank you very much, ladies. I appreciate you both being on. It's good to see you both. And I will, I'm gonna, after this, I'll stop the recording, obviously, and I am going to get that on our website tomorrow. I will send out the link to all of you, but make sure you do definitely find Lisa, and I'm sure she can connect you with Leah, even if Leah is in Georgetown, Indiana. But anybody got anything else? I don't mean to cut anybody off. I'm just literally, I think there's a lot of things that it makes you kind of like, should I rebrand? Crap. Oops, did I
I thought Lisa did a really nice job with
Yeah.
the I jumped in late, but with the part that you did, and it's been an interesting process because I've known you through the first part and through the growth, and
it's to me it's kind of curious how many, kind of like the Cracker Barrel thing came up. It's kind of interesting. I wonder how many of them, because we've guys, I know some of you are younger than me, but I mean, you know what? I mean, there have been companies who've done a lot of rebranding or they've changed, they've evolved, and then they come back. I mean, you're talking about Coca-Cola and Pepsi and some of those, haven't they kind of like come back to the classics that, you know what I mean? You're almost, yeah, so you're almost kind of wondering,
Well, I mean, even like when I grew up, everything was Kentucky Fried Chicken, and now it's KFC, you know,
Mhm.
Yeah,
because their attitude is we do more than chicken, but really, I don't, well, I don't eat them anyway, but the people who do eat them, I don't know if they eat anything besides chicken there, but
right. I
so.
wonder if there's a bunch of information out there, or there might be somewhere out there, be interesting how many people, what's the statistics say about, how many change and go back? Or, you know what I mean? And it doesn't, I'm not talking all the gigantic companies, I'm talking about just in,
So
Really
one
small.
thing that I didn't bring up that actually Leah, I give Leah credit. When I was doing this, there's rebranding where you just start using a new logo and you don't really say anything about it. You just
do it.
slip it in. And um, a lot of times that's when they're not changing their name. But there is times when you rebrand that you're changing the whole name and everything. I chose to do the relaunch. I chose to go and do the Facebook Live and say why I'm doing this and stuff because mainly for that mind shift, that mindset shift that was happening. But give you a case in point, I have a client slash vendor. I work with him. He's a vendor that I use, but also he's a client that he changed his whole company name, didn't say anything, just kind of changed it. And just as an example, um, first time his invoices went out, he got all these people replying back saying, "This looks like my invoice from you, but I don't recognize this company name on it."
Yeah.
And, that's a case that, in my opinion, of where rebranding didn't quite work as great as it could have, So he tried to kind of quietly do it, and he needed to be a little louder about it, I guess.
Well,
Um,
but
but it
are
was
you
also a good,
right?
for
Go ahead.
me, it was a good thing to launch it because it gave me the chance. I actually reached out to all my current clients and let them know it was happening before it went public. My employees saw the new branding and the new verbiage and everything before it went public. So that way they wasn't shocked. And I think
Right.
that's another thing that I didn't bring in the video, or in the video, the slides, but that's another thing to consider is who is it going to affect, and are they going to be surprised or happy, or are they going to be what's going on kind of
So you
thing?
kind of wonder if he was confident in what he was doing, if he was sneaking it in there. You almost kind
He
of
wasn't
wonder.
trying to sneak it in. He just didn't.
Oh,
I
gotcha.
don't think, I think he just wasn't thinking about the impact,
Got,
you know?
gotcha. Yeah.
So I don't want to say he was being sneaky.
Well, thank you.
Therefore, they put the time into it.
There you go.
Well,
So you want to say that louder? No. Okay. The comment was he wasn't thinking about the impact, so he didn't put the time in to prepare, in the preparation. So that's a good way to put it. So
I guess I would think, Lisa, did it take you very long to, maybe it can be kind of the last question, but just you recognize that you needed to change. Did it take you a little bit to get there? I mean, how long do you think that it took you? 6 months, 6 months to do it? Maybe from thinking about it to actually executing and being completely done? Did you already say that in the
six
presentation?
6 months would probably be about right. Um, it was September, somewhere in there, somewhere August, September, that I said I made it had been in the works, in the sense of it had been coming, but it was coming in the verbiage, and seeing that it wasn't, at the time, I wasn't thinking new logo, new
Yeah.
new everything. I was just thinking I needed to make some changes, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
September is when, like I said, during the time, I mean, we literally was driving to an event, and I remember we were on 191st Street, and we were talking, and I said, I need to just totally redo this. We need to just kind of, we need a rehaul. We need to, we need a realign. And I think I even used the word realignment. I said, we need to realign this whole thing. And, um, and Stephen asked me, okay, so how does that look?
Mhm.
And my first answer, I'm pretty sure, was, I don't know, but we're figuring it out. And we spent the rest of the drive talking about verbs and words and phrases that I wanted, that I wanted to incorporate.
Mhm.
I had no idea what the logo was going to look like. I didn't know that the logo was going to look like until one day sitting here at my desk, and I'm like, I brought up Canva and started playing. I will say, Leah had sent me several. Leah, I'm sorry. I'm just gonna say that because I was probably a horrible customer, and I am a horrible customer, so I'm sorry. Leah sent me all these beautiful logos, and every one of them I looked at, I'm like, it's not, it's not what I want. It's not perfect. It's not what I want. And I kept showing, and she kept sending me more, and I'm like, it's just not what I want. It's not, I'm just not there yet. And finally, one day I just opened Canva and I just started playing. And then I'm like, then I sent it to her and I'm like, this is what I want, but I can't because I'm not a graphic designer. So then I sent it to her and I'm like, this is what I want, but these elements aren't right. Can you fix these elements? And she sent it back to me and I'm like, yes, that's my logo. That's what I want.
Oh, cool. That's very cool. Neat
That was
story.
a
And it's a
horrible
process. I mean, I will
experience.
say designing a logo is a process. You can go online and you can have somebody across the seas, design you one for no money, but then you're stuck with what they give you.
Right.
And
Right.
I believe that, your logo has to be representative of you and your business and has to also have that organic feel to you too. And
You have to love
we
it.
got there.
You have to
We got there.
see it. You
Yeah.
see your logo every time you hand somebody your business card, every time you open your own website. For me, every time I open my email, because it's part of my email. And honestly, you have to love it. And
Right.
and that was the thing. And Leah sent me one logo that I will say I lived with. I put it at various places on my computer so I would see it. And that was what and that was the logo I had said, yep, this is the one we're gonna go with. And then as it kept popping up, as I had it on my screensaver at one time, and I'm just like, it's not. And I remember texting her. I'm like, you're gonna hate me. I'm sorry, but it's not. It's not right yet. I'm pretty sure she was probably cursing at me a few days.
No, I always say from the beginning, it's a logo design is process and it needs to be because it's a personal thing. It's a representative of it's representing your company and you're the face of your company and you know
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah.
So I always work pretty closely with clients and sometimes we go through more versions and sometimes we get it right off the bat. So
We did, and we got it right off the bat with the original logo.
the original one, yeah, we did.
She gave
Yeah.
me the original logo, and I was like, I love it. I love everything about it. The problem
Yeah.
is that it was very much Lisa. It
Mhm.
wasn't necessarily
Yeah.
the organization.
Right.
So, um,
Right.
so yeah. And you missed that part, I think, where I talked about all the little hindrance in the logo, um, but yeah, I apologize officially because I was probably the customer from hell when it came to doing the logo.
You weren't. You weren't.
Well,
So,
we're so glad you both could be on, and I think we need to follow up with another meeting or another gathering like this with other questions about the branding and all that kind of stuff. I don't exactly know what it would be called, but I think because I've worked with both of you, I understand it isn't something I'd want somebody overseas to do. So, not to say you can't do that, people. I'm not trying to talk anybody out of that. I'm just saying definitely. There is a lot of definitely you want to feel good about what you're doing. And I don't know, I've never worked with anybody overseas, so I have no idea what they would do. And I don't want
there are some good virtual assistants that are offshore. I've worked with some. There are also some challenging ones that I've worked with those as well. I don't badmouth I have a referral person that he staffs from offshore. And so if I get a client or a potential client that don't want to pay US rates, I I tell him that, these are the options and I give them information and he will get clients that don't want offshore and he will send them to me. But the other thing that hasn't been said, and the man behind the curtain back here whispered it to me. The other thing when you're going through this rebrand and going through the logo, um, it's important to have somebody you trust as a sounding board because that would be the other thing as went through this. Um, you can have some crazy thoughts and you can have some crazy plans. Having somebody keep you grounded is always a good thing. So I'm lucky to have that.
yeah,
So,
that's a good mic drop moment. Thank you
yeah.
very much. And I would just say everybody plan if you've got questions, follow up with Lisa. And I'm sure
Yep.
she can connect you with Leah, or we can get Leah back on a call with both of them. But thank you, ladies, very much. And I think that's a good one. That's an hour and a half, Lisa. You did a really good job.
I know I'm out of water, so it's time to stop talking.
All right. Well, I'm going to stop the